Okay, we're in Tehillim Tet, number 9.
Okay.
Yeah, number 9. And we were talking about the death of the son of Bathsheba and David. So he said, Lam naseach almut laben. And laben, it had different connotations. One was, laben spells Naval. Naval, a Carmeli, who was insolent and rude to David. Right? But Rashi really goes that this psalm is Laben. Laben really is the son of David with Avshalom when he died, right? We said that the Radak it said that it was the Isha Benaim, it was Goliath, right, when he killed him. And the Al-Sheikh says that it's the son that was born out of the union of Bathsheba and David, the first pregnancy of Bathsheba, that there was a punishment. There was a punishment, right? That this son should die because he was with Bathsheba. Then afterwards, he had another son, and that was Shlomo with Bathsheba, and that was Shlomo HaMelech. You know, that's how we know that really David did not sin with Bathsheba in the technical way. In other words, that now we know because Shlomo was not a mamzer. You know, when a man sleeps with an eshet ish and she gets pregnant from that man, that son is a mamzer, right? In Judaism, that's it. He's a mamzer. So if Shlomo would have been a mamzer, he couldn't be the king, and Hashem chose him as the king. Hashem chose him as the king, Shlomo HaMelech. You know, and not Adoniyahu, who was a pretender and rebelled and tried to become king, right? Or Avshalom. But Hashem chose Shlomo HaMelech, which came from Bathsheba and David. If David would have done the sin of lying with an eshet ish, then Shlomo would have been a mamzer. Which means to say that if somebody, for example, sleeps with a married woman, okay, right, and they have a son, it's a mamzer, okay. What about if the man sleeps with a married woman and she doesn't get pregnant, and the husband finds out, she divorces him? That man can never marry that woman. You know that, right? Once that you slept with a woman and she was eshet ish, then afterwards, even if she gets divorced and she's not an eshet ish, that man can never marry that woman. Again, you have a man and a woman, they're married. The woman goes with another man. The husband divorces the woman. The other one cannot marry, ever. What about if he does? He goes to another city, or goes to another country, or he takes a holiday and goes to another rabbi. We want to get married. The rabbi doesn't know, he marries them. Or even if she doesn't get married, she gets pregnant from the second man. Much later, that son is a mamzer. You see? Because that relation is forbidden. Le'olam va'ed, forever. If that were, so now we know that David did not sin. When David says, Lecha levadecha chatati Hashem, I sinned only to you, not to her, not to the husband, and not, I did not sin. But the sin was that he manipulated the whole situation. Okay. But lehalacha, the son is not a mamzer. Nor the first one, nor Shlomo. The first one is a miscarriage, right? It's a miscarriage. So, okay, and the second one, if he would have been a mamzer, he would not have been able to be king. Because a king, Israel, cannot be a mamzer. He has to be from Yehuda, or at least from Israel, like Shaul. He was from Benjamin, that Hashem chose him. You see? So that's what we're talking about here. So למנשא החלמות לבן מזמור לדוד, אודה אדוני בכל ליבי. I will thank Hashem with all my heart. Why do I have to Hashem with all my heart? Right? With all my heart. Which means that David accepted the fact that now the child would be a miscarriage, would not be born alive. Right? He accepted that. Right? Also, the Chovot HaLevavot says that, a person never really thanks Hashem with the whole heart. Why? Because the minute you're thanking Hashem with your heart, you're thanking Him for something He gave you, you're already thinking what you're going to ask next. See? So David says, no, bechol libi. I don't want anything right now. I'm done. I don't want anything. Tomorrow, I don't know. But right now, what? I sinned. I manipulated the situation with Bathsheba. My son is stillborn. So him and Bathsheba are punished. How they punished? This child is stillborn. You see? Why is that justice? Why should the baby suffer? Right? That's a good question. No? And of course, we cannot look at it from this perspective, but from Hashem's perspective, imagine that this baby was not supposed to come to the world. For whatever reason, he's supposed to die. Like David HaMelech. David HaMelech, what happened? His neshama was too great. His neshama was too great. If you bring David HaMelech's neshama, so then there's the balance of free will gets, It's like Moshe Rabbeinu. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu not go into Israel? Not because they hit the rock instead of speaking. That's an excuse. Really, he couldn't come into Eretz Israel because if Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Eretz Israel and he is the Mashiach, Moshe is Mashiach, that's it. He builds the Bet HaMikdash, everything's done. And what's wrong with that? That all of Israel would not have the merit of doing it. He would have the merit of doing it. And it wasn't the right time. He could bring about the redemption, the tikkun, the rectification for creation. By him going into Israel, he could do it. But Hashem says, no. I want to reward all of Israel, all the Jewish people. They all have to do it. It's not just the one person. It's never the one person doing it. Yosef went down to Egypt and he took out the sparks. But then we all had to go down and do it. The 70, Yaakov and the 70 had to go down, and then we had to have the 600,000 Jews in there, well, the ones, the men and the women and the children, the 2 million Jews. They had to go into Egypt and did what Yosef did. So Yosef was the prototype. But we all had to do it. Why did we all have to do it? Because Hashem wants to reward us all, not just Yosef. And we have to do the work, all of us. So Moshe could have gone into Eretz Israel and bring the redemption. And that's it. He would have finished all the Amalek, built the Bet HaMikdash, 1,000 years, Olam Haba, and we're done. And what's wrong with that? That afterwards in Olam Haba, you and all of us, other than Moshe, we wouldn't have the place that Hashem has envisioned for us in Olam Haba. which is much higher than if we would have just gone with Moshe, and he would have been the one to do it. You see? David HaMelech is the same. If David HaMelech would have come to the world and written Tehillim and teach the way of Teshuvah and done everything, because that's what Adam HaRishon saw. Adam HaRishon, look, this neshama comes from me. It's the same Gilgul, same reincarnation. Look what he can do. He can do so much. Yeah, but the forces of the darkness come and say, hey, it's not fair. What you doing? There's no free will here. You know? So Adam says, okay, there is free will. Why? I'm going to take 70 years of my life and give it to David. And then the Sitra Achra says, Adam Rishon was much greater than David. Much greater. 70 years of Adam Rishon is like 700 years of David. So the Sitra Achra says, okay, I do this deal, it's good for me. Give you 70 years, let him live. He's not going to take free will. Everything will be again, because you're taking away from Adam. Because you're taking away 70 years from Adam. 70 years from Adam is like 700 years of Adam doing the holy work. Right? It's like Avraham Avinu lost 5 years. Right? Because Hashem didn't want him to see Esav. Hashem promised Avraham Avinu that he was going to die besova, in good, seeing all his children, everybody okay, and he's going to see Esav now doing averot. So Hashem took him away. But those 5 years, we had to pay a price. Because how much could Avraham Avinu done in those 5 years? Wow, a lot. You see? Avraham Avinu could have done a lot. Shalom, shalom. So Avraham Avinu could have done a lot. So Avraham Avinu lost 5 years. Here Adam HaRishon loses 70 years, and he gives them to David. So David is born. But David was supposed to be born dead. Why? Because David would have given too much light to the world. And it would have upset the very fragile, sensitive balance of free will in the world. So the forces of evil said, no, David cannot be born. He has to die. He has to be born, stillborn. Adam HaRishon says, wait a minute, but David can do so much. So he looks in the future, sees David, who comes from him, who's a reincarnation of Adam, because Adam is Adam, David, Moshe. And he says, wait a minute, what about David? No, he can't be born. But look, he can do so much. So Adam gives his 70 years to David. And why is that okay now? Because Adam HaRishon, 70 years of Adam HaRishon is like 700 years of David. But in his time, David is going to do it in the future. And Am Yisrael is going to need Yeshuot in the future. Against the Philistines and against Goliath and everything that went on in the time of David. So too now the baby that is still born from Bathsheba, you came in the middle, but we're talking about the baby that when Bathsheba and Shlomo, Bathsheba and David were together, she got pregnant, and then she had a miscarriage. Yes. And then afterwards she got pregnant again from David, and then Shlomo HaMelech was born. So we were saying that David accepts that bechol libi. The pasuk says in Tehillim Tet, give a Tehillim. You have Tehillim Tet and pasuk Bet. Odeh Adonai bechol libi. I will thank Hashem with all my heart. Why with all my heart? So he said two things, because when a person asks for something, right? That's the Chovot HaLevavot. Says when a person asks for something, he's already thinking what he's going to ask next. As he's praying, as he's asking for something, he already, in his back of his mind, he's already thinking. So here he says, no, Hashem, I'm thanking you with all my heart. What am I thanking you for? That you're going to forgive the sin of Bathsheba, that we paid a price for the sin of Bathsheba and myself, that I manipulated into being with a married woman. Not the sin of Eshet Ish, because then he would have been a mamzer. And Shlomo would have been a mamzer later on. So it's not that sin. Lecha levadat chatati, a sin only to you, we said. But not to Hashem, but not to Uriah and Bathsheba. But there was a sin of manipulation. And then David, that sin could get back, that's karma. That karma comes back. But how does it come back now? Right away, he gets punished for it. How? By having a miscarriage. That from that pregnancy, from that night that they were together. Because remember, when David saw Bathsheba in the bath, it was actually the mikveh. She was there in the mikveh. You know? She had never been with Uriah, Ahiti, her husband. Never consummated the marriage. And that night she was in the mikveh. Right? In those days, the mikveh, well, it must have been, he was in the rooftop and he saw her. And then that night he was with her. She got pregnant and the baby was a miscarriage. So he was punished straight away. So he thanks Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Not for the baby. He was hurt. That was his son.
So where is Absalom? Which one is Absalom then?
That's with another wife. Yeah. So wait a minute. But then we ask the question: How is that fair on that baby that got lost? Or that got miscarried? So the truth is, look how Hashem works in his deep way. That baby was like David HaMelech, was supposed to be miscarried. It was supposed to be too much light unto the world. Right? And it was going to upset. It was going to upset the balance of free will. So that baby was going to die. But now Hashem brings the situation. I mean, this is the baby that's in this situation, and the baby does a tikkun. It's an aliyah for that baby too, because it brings a kapara for David and Bathsheba. So the baby gets elevated. It does its tikkun. So the baby gets reincarnated and gets born again. By who? Shlomo HaMelech. You follow now? You follow? Look how things work out. So that's why Shlomo is called Shalem. It comes from Shalom, but comes from Shalem. What does Shalem mean? Complete. What complete? He completed the tikkun of the previous neshama that was a miscarriage. You follow? So and this David sees. And he says, Hashem, I thank you with all my heart. I thank you with all my heart. Because I know everything you do is for the good. Even such a terrible thing as a miscarriage. In your great plan, in your great tapestry of the world, moving around the neshamot, and bringing everything into shelemut, into perfection, bringing us all into olam haba, how you move the pieces. Right? So that's it. Asapera kol nifleotecha. And the second part of the pasuk tet, bet, Tehillim tet, pasuk bet. So Odeh Adonai b'chol libi, I'm going to thank you with all my heart. What else can I ask for? Asapera kol nifleotecha. I will proclaim all your wonders, all these pele, all these wonders that you do. That even something such a travesty, such a tragedy, you turn it into good. You turn it into good. Esmeha, pasuk gimel. Esmeha, I will rejoice. Ve'elza bach, and I will exalt in you. Right? So what's the difference between simcha, rejoicing, and ilza, and exulting? Right? So Rav Samson Raphael Hirsch, he says, Sameach is simcha. Simcha from what? You know, the tzaddik and the tzamech are interchangeable. So what he says, that is like tzomeach, is growth. This is the sensation of that a person is growing inside, spiritually, where you grow, you fulfill. So that's simcha. Alatz, which is to exalt, right? That is the overcoming to resistance. That is the simcha that we get when we free ourselves. So simcha, in according to Rav Hirsch, in the Tanakh, simcha is when I grow, when I have inner growth, when I have spiritual growth. And alatz, to exalt, is like when I have freedom, when I'm released from some resistance, to free oneself from the bonds, right? And you'll see that that's from chaletz. Alatz and chaletz is the same letters. This is an expression for the feeling of blessed relief from an oppression or a confinement, you know? That can be very, very, that is even greater than, well, they're very different. Simcha and alza is very different. Simcha is like you feel so happy because you're growing inside, it's growing so much. You're completing so much. And alza is actually the overcoming or the freeing of oneself from bonds, you know, from a confinement, from an oppression, where we free ourselves. It's very different. But in both, David expressed that. Because now, why? He's freed from the guilt that he has for Bathsheba, that he brought about the death of a baby. Right? Because the baby becomes miscarriage. So he's freed from that. So that's Ailetza. And he has Simcha also because he sees that completion. Why a completion? Because really, Bathsheba was a reincarnation of Chava. Yes, that's what the Ari Kadosh says. That's what the Zohar says. And David is a reincarnation of Adam. And Uriah Hitti, who took Bathsheba, is a reincarnation of the Nahash, of the snake. So really David feels a simcha for a completion of a whole cycle here, where he took back Chava from the snake. Because Adam, you know, the snake took Chava, that was the whole thing. You know, Adam takes Chava back. David takes Bathsheba back from Uriah Hitti. Right? From the snake. Yeah, Uriah Hitti was the snake because he was the weapon bearer of Goliath. Right? Ve'elza bach, and I will exalt in you. Why? And then bach in you because ultimately Hashem's name gets sanctified. Bach. So I rejoice because I completed the cycle of Bathsheba, Chava, David, Adam, Uriah Hitti, the Nachash. Elza, I am freed from the guilt of having done an Averah that caused somebody's death. I am freed from that. And Bach, and in you, Hashem, because now your wondrous ways are revealed. So I rejoice and I exult in you. As Amera Shimcha Elyon, I will praise your name because you're the Most High. Because only Hashem could have done this. He's the Most High because He knows all the secrets. He knows all the wonders that he's doing. And by the way, 95% of what Hashem's wonders that he's doing and protecting and putting things in the right situation and redeeming us and taking us to Olam Haba and always looking for a good and even more good and more good is done secretly. Only 5% we see, the Gemara says.
Wasn't David Hamilton punished for taking Bathsheba like that? I mean, for sending him to the front line, for sending... Manipulation. He was punished for the manipulation. Not for being with Eshet Ish. Because if you would say he was punished for the Gemara says, Kol ha'omer sheDavid HaMelech chata toeh. Whoever says that David HaMelech sinned with Eshet Ish makes a mistake. But he was punished. He wasn't punished for being with Eshet Ish. He was punished for manipulating. If he would have been with Eshet Ish, then Shlomo would have been a mamzer. And a mamzer cannot be a king. And Hashem chose Shlomo as a king. You follow? But he was punished for the manipulation. Okay, we're going to stop here.